This week on Feel Good Friday, Indonesian communities party with the corpses of their loved ones, so metal. Study finds that ChatGPT is more personable than your own doctor. The Dyson Zone looks dumb as shit, and it's going to cost an arm and a leg for psilocybin therapy in Oregon. Did you guys ever watch that? It was like a Netflix series that came out a while back with that New Zealand reporter guy, I think. And it was called like Dark Tourism. And he goes around to like different... I
vaguely remember hearing about the show.
Yeah.
Didn't watch it.
It was a sick show. It was great. It was this guy that was basically going around the world to like places that would be considered dark tourism destinations.
You mean hey, let's go to
Antarctica in the middle of winter.
Afghanistan. I was more so thinking.
Kind of like, sort of like that.
Or so hey, let's go to Yemen.
Yeah, I mean, less like let's go to war-torn countries, and more like let's go to the place in Japan that had like the nuclear reactor accident kind of thing, or like let's go. An example was let's go to Indonesia, where this tribe removes the dead from their coffins. As like a sort of death ritual. And so it was like sort of morbid / like kind of darker types of things that happen around the world. And you go and you kind of explore it because like going to a fucking all-inclusive just like isn't exciting enough.
Did you mean the Indonesian tribe that would like keep their loved ones and then every year like open up the coffin and bring like pops out and like set them up at a table and like have tea with them and then like put them back.
Yeah. Well, so it's the
like summer vibes.
It's the Torajan people on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. And it happens every 3 years. It's called the Mainin ritual, which in English means the ceremony of cleansing corpses. Dude, this is so fucking metal. So I don't think we've ever talked about it on the show, but Vice just like put out a post the other day about it, and the photos that they released with it I was like, oh yeah, this is fucking wild.
I immediately think that this would make the grieving process a lot better.
Yes, and you know what else I was thinking about is that it probably makes the conversation surrounding death for youth and like the understanding of death for youth a lot more like digestible, you know? So
that's kind of, speaking of Midsummer, that's like kind of the vibe ish that I was getting in that scene.
Oh, from when they're like,
when they jump,
Jorgen's going to jump off the cliff.
And which also I was like, oh, they do this in, what's the Norseman? Yeah, right. It was like, there's a scene like that in Norseman. I was like, oh, it's really funny in Norseman. It's not so funny in this movie. I mean, they definitely took it a step further with the skull crushing afterwards, but
So this Indonesian tribe, every 3 years they celebrate by removing the dead from their coffins, and they have like a little sort of like street party with the dead folk. So caring for the dead like they're still living may be the truest form of love.
It's too funny not to think about, but like, do you think that like
it's very
every 3 years when they like bring out their loved one?
Dude, some of these photos are fucking Weekend at Bernie's for sure.
they went so hard 3 years ago with their loved one that they like actually had to like bolt something back on or like extra secure a limb that got a little bit fucked up last time. So like each 3 years, like somebody's a little bit more worn and torn.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm going to show you some pretty gnarly photos here in a moment. So in the mountainous region of Indonesia, this is what they do. They care for the dead like they're still alive. The Toraja people keep their deceased loved ones close in a separate room of the home, mummifying their bodies and treating them to the essentials: food, water, clothing, and of course, cigarettes. So the dead are brought out of their coffins. They are washed and they are brought down to the village where the younger generations connect with their lineage and learn to deal with death from an early age. It is not unusual to see young Torajans share a smoke or take selfies with their mummified ancestors. Torajans, the dead are never really gone. Instead, they would be shocked by the sheer number of retirement homes and outsourced tomb cleaning in the Western world. So here is some of the photos. And dude, you know what?
Whoa.
So I if you are watching on YouTube, I will say that there is a photo from this Vice post that sort of shocked me a bit.
This is shocking.
Here's another one here. You can see this. Wow. This looks like grandma. You know, they put grandma in some fucking sick outfit like that. That headpiece is dope.
Well, that's like a pretty traditional Indonesian.
Check this one out.
Garb. Oh my god.
So for people that are just listening, we're looking at the corpse of probably a 9-10-year-old.
Yeah,
it
could be.
No, that's a kid.
No, it's a kid.
It's a kid. 100%, it's a kid.
The hair is wild.
Yeah. So
the hair
it's
is real. Do you think it's a wig?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's gotta be a wig. It's got to be a wig.
No,
could be.
Well,
could be real hair.
Why would the hair stay?
Well, they mummify these. They mummify these corpses. They brush them down in I don't know what it is. I could have looked it up, but I didn't. But basically, what we're looking at here is it looks like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old child with a really pretty purple dress, some really nice shoes and socks, and a cute little headpiece. This one's super gnarly. Man, it's our culture look from where we stand, we look at this and there's it's scary. You know what I mean? This looks like something you would see out of a horror movie.
Yeah, totally.
But to them, it's completely different. Here's a really interesting one. So this photo is of somebody slipping on a pair of sneakers on the foot of a corpse. That was what I was thinking about this one of you slip that on a little too hard, slip that off a little too hard, and that foot might just come with you.
Yeah,
totally.
Right.
It's got to be very fragile.
It is. Man, I'm having really mixed feelings looking at this. So it's funny because I started by saying I imagine that this would help the grieving process. You know, just knowing that physically there's still some sort of physical aspect of your loved one still here would probably be comforting somewhat, knowing that there's still something that you can reach out and touch and and see and feel that it's really there. But also I don't know, there's something also kind of seeing that, especially the seemingly young girl and the person who was holding her, which I'm assuming is, maybe the dad.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, man, it would be pretty sad. And
it's tough to know. Well, it's tough to separate how much our upbringing around all these things influences the way that,
again, culturally, it's probably looked at. I mean, it most certainly is looked at in a very different way. I highly doubt it's a deep sadness. I more so expect that it's probably I mean, sure, there's probably grief. Grief is not only sadness. Grief is a myriad of different emotions that you sort of roller coaster through as you go through the process of grief. So sure, maybe there is some sadness there, but I don't look at that and think, man, they must be fucking sad.
No,
pulling that little their once 10-year-old daughter's corpse out and dressing her up. There's I mean, again, think about what they're doing, right? They're feeding them water. Mm-hmm. They're I mean, maybe not the 10-year-old girl, but they're lighting up smokes and putting them in their mouth. They're giving them cigarettes.
Yeah.
They're sharing a drink with them. Maybe
giving them cigarettes.
Giving the 10-year-old corpse a cigarette. Be like, you're 18 now. Here's a dart, but they're celebrating with them. They're going, hey, we're going to replace your clothing with these brand new shoes or this this brand new dress or this new hat or whatever. There's probably along with the mourning piece, there's probably a lot of joyous feelings
for sure
that go with that celebration.
For sure. And I think that I thought initially oh, what a joyous, amazing thing to be able to celebrate and remember your
idea of it.
The idea of it. But then seeing the pictures, I was oh, but also it would be fucking sad too. I feel like there would be, like you said, Jared, a myriad of feelings that you would probably throughout the day laugh a lot, you'd cry a lot, you'd fucking be angry that they were gone too soon, you'd be happy that they're still there in some capacity to.
But do you think that it would be like that if if say someone close to you had passed, and this is like the third time you've pulled them out and redressed them and washed them, and it's like I feel like you inevitably become,
there'd be a desensitizing, normalizing,
and like desensitize isn't the right word. No, it's like you just become familiar with this is what I do with the corpse of my loved one. Yeah. Like
I think that you'd probably have more of the warm feelings than the sad feelings, but Brandon died 5 years ago now, and that was a couple days ago, or yesterday. And looking back at pictures of him and times that we had spent together, it's been 5 years now, and I'm able to look back and think of the fond memories and be really grateful for those. But also it's still sad,
sure.
It's you still feel sadness at the same time.
Do you think do you think that those feelings would feel different if once a year we sat down to record the podcast and we just put Brandon in the producer seat, his corpse?
Yeah, I mean,
mummified in it
would be different.
A new fucking sick well, not a pair of Nikes, but a Nike,
right?
And a sweet button down shirt.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Right? Do you think though?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would feel different. That would be a different experience.
It would be a different experience.
Different, yeah.
It's funny because it's your initial reaction because of the way that we grew up with death education or lack thereof for the most part is it's very oh wow, oh my God. And I think the initial reaction because of how because of the lens through which we look at that, it's very easy to see that as to the knee-jerk reaction for the average person to be oh my God, don't do that. And then at the same time, it's what, but our education or lack thereof and comfortability with death is rock bottom. We have culturally no degree of okayness with it. And not to change the subject too much, but something that you guys would both really resonate, which is kind of at the heart of the first chapter of Peter Tia's book, is talking about our obsession with just drawing out lifespan, at all costs, make a life longer, and to in many cases not consider in any way, shape, or form what quality that time is. So to have somebody who is dying from cancer, and it's it is absolutely inevitable that they're going to die from cancer, and they're going to die within the next 2 months. And when the 2-month time comes and things start to fail, that there's efforts being put in to just let's just do this procedure, or do this medication. We'll just maybe we can get two more days, a week longer. And it's at what cost? And why do we just want to drag this out? Is that our level of discomfort with death, that we're just actually more invested in seeing somebody suffer to the nth degree, rather than just go, it's okay, we're at the end.
I think maybe that's true, but also I feel like that is true, but I think the other thing that is also true is that when you look at the types of stories that we fall in love with, it's the stories of resilience and hope and somebody persevering against all odds. And so when it comes to
those people are the exception.
Totally, but I think when it's someone closest to you, or it's your own life,
and it's not the person sitting there that feels that way, it's the doctors, it's the medical system.
But
I'm not talking about the person.
But I think that it's the story that I think communally, like in our society, this is the story that we tell ourselves. And when it's your individual experience that you're personally connected to, whether you're the doctor, whether you're the loved one of the person who's going through that, you probably in that moment feel like you want at all, you want to create this opportunity for there to be this like, miracle story where the person turns out okay. And like, especially
but if 99 times out of 100, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't matter though when it's you in that moment. Like I understand what statistically.
No, because it's not the person. I'm not talking about the person. I'm not talking about the person that is on the verge of death. I'm talking about everybody around that person who is unable to go, the best thing right now,
dude, I mean,
is for this person to die.
You see it all the time. Like, I mean, Kier sees it every day at work where there's people in there in the ICU and even the medical team is like, we gotta let go. We gotta let go. And the family's like, no.
This is what I mean. This is what
hold on. We're gonna hold on. And the physicians and the nurses are like, fuck, guys, you can't, you gotta stop. You have to just pull the plug on this because it's not going to change.
This is the point that I'm making. Like, do you not think that because of that, our obsession with these like hopes for a miracle, that family members who are like, no, like just one more day, try to give them one more chance, try to do whatever we can to create one more opportunity for them to like hopefully miraculously get better. Like,
I think that's a manifestation of our inability to understand or cope with death because of our culture.
I think that that's a huge part of it. I also think it's like an obsession with like, it's this like idea of, for lack of a better term, it's like this idea of like main character syndrome. It's like you're the main character in the story. And like, Taylor, if you were lying on a hospital bed and like, you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to die tomorrow because my cancer's, gotten the best of me. And I'm standing here and I'm like, no, dude, you got like one more day. I just know you can do it. I want to believe that you're going to find a way to persevere. It's like, it's partly my obsession with, or partly my inability to handle you dying, but also it's like that hope that like, in my situation, like pull me out of that situation and say it's not you on the table. I would be able to rationally say, yeah, I think that's true. Like we are like 99 times out of 100, the best thing is probably for that person to just die.
And if our culture changed, then like we would probably feel differently about it. What this makes me think about the whole time we've been talking about this for the last like five or 10 minutes is like one of the best things that I ever heard somebody tell me in my hockey career was when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I was going to this hockey camp, and one of the coaches, one of the staff, was a junior A coach, and he was a scout for a major junior team. And he did a presentation where he sat in there, and this is like a group of at the time I think we were about 15, all the best hockey players in the province and like from around Atlantic Canada. Probably 5% of those people went on to play in the NHL, and we're all thinking, I'm going to play in the NHL. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. Everybody's thinking that. And this coach gives us a presentation and he says,
I bet I know what he said.
You're all going to make it.
He said,
you can do it.
I bet I know. I guarantee you he said this. He went, listen, when life is tough, keep your stick on the ice. Right?
No, it was pretty much the exact opposite.
He said,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
You got shoot your shot, or your shot will shoot you.
He said,
you say that?
This was actually, it was shocking and the most sobering thing as a teenage like athlete with high aspirations to hear. He said, do you know how many kids in Canada are sitting in a room like this thinking that they're going to make the NHL just like you are? And basically proceeded to go, if you go to play major junior, and he's a major junior scout, he said, they will fuck you around to take away your opportunity to go play NCAA and get to school. And then he gave us percentages like this percent of you will go and play this level. And then from that, this percentage will go to the NHL. And do you know how much money, do you know how many games you need to play in order to get a pension in the NHL? Do you know how many years you have to play in there? And do you know what percentage of players in Canada will actually get that opportunity? And he basically laid out this case, which was basically like, yo, you're buying a lottery ticket right now. And some of you will win. But here's what you really need to do. Like you need to focus on becoming a good person. You need to focus on on being in school, on learning, on like having good relationships. And it was crazy. And I remember thinking like, whoa, this is so counterculture right now. Because all I've been told my whole life is I'm like, if I just hold that in my mind that I can make the NHL. It was the only person to like kind of go against the grain on that. And I think about that in terms of the death conversation, because I feel like you're right. Like there is such a culture of like, we just need to do this thing. We just need to do this procedure, or we'll get this, and maybe we can, like, if we do this, maybe we'll get another 6 months or another year. And at what cost? And like, how far do you chase that until you just cause more harm than good? I think our medical system and our society and our culture around death, it just doesn't know when to quit in a lot of ways, and causes a lot of unintentional harm. Like it's not intentional harm. It's in good. It's in good faith. Like the intentions to save somebody are, I get it. I understand it. But
I think that's really true. And I think that it becomes really hard to remember that when it becomes personal. And like, yeah, I guess like at the end of the day, when it's your loved one whose life is on the line, it's probably a lot harder to go, the best thing is probably for them to die.
Yeah. I mean, it gets in, sometimes it gets in the way of doing the thing that the person who is dying wants.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who hasn't filled out their advance directive, and they find themselves in a position where they are in the ICU or something, and the family knows that this person spoke about the things that they want to see happen to them if they are in XYZ position, but because it wasn't in writing, and somebody else is calling the shot, and that somebody else doesn't want it to go the way that it probably should, and the way that it most certainly should, based on the wishes of the person who's not well. Sometimes you'll see it go a completely different direction because of that. And I think it's really fucking unfortunate. I think it really does tie to our inability to cope with the idea of death in general.
The hard part too is like when families don't talk about these things, is that they sort of like inadvertently or unintentionally put these types of decisions on healthcare providers.
Yeah.
Like we ran into a guy at a conference the other day,
right,
who had told us, who was a registered nurse, showed it to Emmanuel if he's listening to this, but who was telling us like, sometimes when it comes to palliative or hospice care, and you're in charge of sort of like determining when this person is at the end of their life, and when to give them this sort of medication that will just sort of quietly let them go off into the next, into the afterlife. It's if the family hasn't had that conversation, then the responsibility of making that decision then falls on the healthcare provider. And then what sort of impacts can it have on a person, professionally, who has to work and make that decision, all because we couldn't talk about death. I don't know. It can be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just passing the buck, which is like kind of wills. That's why a will is important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kyle and I went back and forth on a bunch of stuff where on one particular thing where she was like, well, it doesn't really matter to me. Like what happens to this, I can't even remember what it was. I think maybe her burial or something like that. And I was like, well,
fuck, I thought you were talking about, I thought you were talking about like the wills of the world are important. And like, we've got some good, like Will,
like William,
Will, our buddy Will, your buddy Will.
Oh, right.
Any Will that like
right.
They're important.
Like people named Will.
Wills are important.
Right. I mean, that too.
Right. But you were talking about something else.
Yeah. That she was like, there was something, I think it was her burial or like her funeral service or whatever. And it was like, she generally said something to the effect of like, it doesn't really matter to me, whatever you all want. And I was like, well, you're
like cheap. You want it to be cheap.
You're kind of just putting the responsibility onto me and or your mom or your sister or Zaya.
That's what you in that case, like that's when you out of spite, you go, all right, fine. And then when they die, you're like, she told me her wishes were to be just like hung from the rafters like a puppet. And we want and whoever's like leading the whoever's leading the ceremony of the funeral is the puppeteer and doing an impression of Kyla with her voice.
Yeah.
So like speaking, doing her own funeral from the dead.
Just a plethora of things that aren't legal.
Teaching
but really,
yoga.
you are like you put the responsibility onto people who are who are at that moment. It's like, yeah, maybe that seems like something they might be able to handle now while you're alive, but
in that moment of grief, in that moment of loss, it's like to have that weight not be on your shoulders to make those decisions. And it makes that process a lot easier.
And if it's not super clear and then it's like left to me and I go, well, I think we should do this. And let's say Kyla's mom or her sister or something is like, no, I think we should do it. And it's like, well, if we're just clear about what we want, like wills are really important.
Mm-hmm. But add that disagreement in the mix of grief. It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something a little more futuristic.
Yes.
Do you guys remember this fucking thing?
How far in the future are we going?
Yeah, the Dyson air purifier.
The Dyson
and headphones.
It didn't look like that though.
It's the Dyson Zone.
It just came out recently.
It did just come out recently, and I'd like to play for you a little video on how it works. This is fucking dumb. I mean, hey, look, if we have another pandemic, then sure. Right. Maybe I could see people walking through the world wearing one of these fucking things. But I don't know. I think maybe I'm like I'm exhausted. I'm mask exhausted, COVID exhausted. So when I see this, it just makes me like kind of fucking annoyed.
It looks
what we're watching right now is a video from Dyson that is showing how to use this thing.
If there's one word
to play, press to pause, turn the volume up, turn the volume down, yada yada.
If there's one word I could use to describe it, it would be over-engineered.
It's a bit much, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's kind of Dyson's jam, though, right?
It really is. I mean,
okay.
I mean, hey, it sounds okay. It sounds pretty good.
How do we know?
But again, it's like what we're watching here is just a glorified fucking commercial for headphones. They're not even really.
What's going on with the mask, though?
They're not even talking about the fact that there's a giant fucking machine across the person's mouth.
I don't want to watch this anymore.
Where's the...
No, you got to see it to the end, though. This is fascinating.
Okay. Okay.
It's like, guys, what about the face thing? What's going on with the face?
I really want to hear the person talk, and I want them to sound like Bane.
I really wish I had a
You know
Bane
what? So
sound
far, I have 2 pairs of headphones that do all of this.
Oh, there we go. She took the thing down. As soon as you drop your face piece. Oh, and you can take it off. There you go. So basically,
they literally didn't talk about it.
What we learned there is that
what?
That's a gimmick. That's just a dumb gimmick. And you can buy a pair of fucking Bose headphones that'll do the exact same thing we just saw, except not obstruct the front of your face.
Listen, like there is surprisingly a market out there for that. I mean, there's probably a large market for it in like Japan and Korea.
But hold on, maybe you're right. But if there is, why the fuck did they not even touch on the fact?
They didn't even touch on it.
That there's an air purifier in the front of the thing. Like,
I mean, shit,
who gives a fuck how it sounds? I'm sure it sounds great. They're headphones.
Don't you think they would be like 12 fans in here to recycle the air through? They didn't mention anything about it.
Show us what does it do? Is it better than an N95? I don't know. Is it fucking, or is it a Lululemon cloth mask? I don't know.
Does it work?
Does it also double as a CPAP machine? I don't know.
It's also now, it's like you're just like 2 years late, you know.
But again, unless you live in Mexico City, and it actually does some fucking amazing like air purification for your mouth.
Okay, say they launched in like March 2020. Do you think that product would do well?
It's a hot product.
That would be that would be. Yeah, I would say probably pretty
hot.
Like,
you probably had like a couple months.
You know what?
Window.
I bet that product is on the cover of every tech magazine and publication and website in the world.
Now,
if it's March
how about
2020.
this? Do you think maybe they didn't touch on it because
it doesn't do anything.
No, because it actually, when you use it, it just like dries out your throat so bad that you're gagging. You know, like it's like problematic.
That probably is a reason. I don't see why.
Right, because it's got to be sucking in air, right?
The only thing they showed about it is that you can take it off.
Air in. I have no idea what's going on.
They do vacuum.
I mean, I don't know what's going on because they didn't fucking tell me. They just said, hey, these work just like any other fucking headphones you can buy right now.
Okay, so question though, if it was, let's say not March 2020, but if it was like September 2020, and you had to go on a flight somewhere.
If it was March 2020 and they released this, I think it would have been buried by the news.
Right.
By the sheer fact that there's a global pandemic just about to happen.
If it was September 2020,
June 2020 would have been a great month.
That would have been great.
And you had to fly somewhere. You were an essential worker traveling somewhere, and there was mask requirements. Would and say that Dyson air purifier was acceptable.
Right. That was one thing I was like, man, you get on a plane with that, they're gonna go, what the fuck? Get that gadget off your face. Put this mask on.
So would you wear that if it was acceptable on a plane, as opposed to would you pay the let's say $400 to buy?
Definitely way more than that.
Let's
it's
say
a Dyson product, first of all.
Sure,
it's probably at least $21,000.
Dude, it's got to be at least $1,000. A good set of noise canceling headphones that do all the things that they said that does. And it's Dyson.
They didn't really say it does that much. One of the features they said was rewind.
But it does all the things that noise canceling, like wireless noise canceling headphones. But like my Bose headphones are like $400 or $500. Mm-hmm. So like that's got an air purifier mask built into it. Like it's like you're a Power Ranger. Like that's got to be at least $1,000.
This thing isn't even out yet.
It'll probably never get released. Speaking of, since we've been thirst trapped into talking about COVID. It's official. The you guys saw that the other day. Said that it was over. They said the emergency, the global emergency is over.
Right.
$949.
Oh, I was very
close. That's not cheap. But I was expecting more.
It's not. I was expecting a little bit more too. I think
there are websites that show them at $1,200 too, but $949 US. Yeah.
Here's what I want to know.
Those
guys.
drop shipping websites?
No.
Here's what I want to know, guys. Tell me your thoughts. And this is also for listeners. And I'm not judging. I'm genuinely curious / baffled. And don't take baffled in the wrong way. It's just that I am. So Zaya had a daycare tour. She's going to go to daycare in September, and we had a tour of her daycare today, and it was lovely. She had a great time. She was just fucking running around, being all curious and shit. It was super cute. There was a worker there wearing a mask, and I'm going, shoot, I get for sure why you're wearing a mask in here. You're amongst 20 children. All of their noses are basically neon green with snot. Totally get it. Makes the most sense in the world to me. But I was biking the other day, and I was biking by a picnic table that was out in a field, and there was 2 people sitting at the picnic table, and they were wearing masks. And I just thought to myself, like, it's such an interesting choice. I'm just wondering what your guys' thought is on like what the idea of wearing a mask outside is in 2023, or like what somebody or people listening, what they think that, like, why? Like, is it a psychological thing? Is there a practicality?
There's 2.
I think it could be 1,000 different.
Yeah.
things.
Well, there's 2 potential buckets. I think those things could fit in, which is one, there is some rational, practical reason that is just beyond what we can understand or think of. Which, it's probably not worth hypothesizing about because we can't really think about it.
Sure.
The second bucket
I can think about it. I mean, someone who's in the midst of chemotherapy.
Okay.
And they're having like, they're in the midst of like some sort of immunotherapy, chemotherapy, and they're having lunch with a colleague or a friend or something. Okay. And so it's like, I'm wearing a mask because I'm going through chemo, and the other person's like, I'll wear a mask with you.
Good thought. Because I think that a mask is so synonymous with COVID that's where my brain goes, and that's where I get lost on that.
I don't feel like a mask is synonymous with COVID. I think it is.
I
wouldn't really pay that much attention to that situation because of like that example that you gave, Jared. I think the second obvious reason is like that they're
currently sick.
No, I think the second bucket is like they're over concerned,
Right.
because they're afraid, and
Sure.
and I don't think, just to clarify, I don't think that that's an invalid reason for them to be wearing a mask. If that makes them feel comfortable, even if it doesn't, rationally provide any protection in the situation that they're in, but they feel comfortable wearing it, then fine.
Sure.
But do they need to be wearing it? Probably not in that situation.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even look at that as like over. How did you put it?
I don't know.
Over. You didn't say over scared because that's
fearful.
They're afraid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Over whatever you said. I would just look at it as like as a comfort thing. As like a psychologically comforting thing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people when the mask thing came around, they like put on a mask and they went, "Fuck, it feels so good to have my fucking face covered in public." Like I don't want people looking at me. So when I put on a mask, I just feel like the kid from Big Daddy, where it's like it's like you peed on the floor. Here, bud, just put these glasses on. No one can see you. You're invisible now. And the kid's like, "Fuck yeah, sweet. All right, I don't have to like worry about it. I can piss on the wall or whatever." And so I think it might be like that sort of psychological, like, it just feels better to like wear a mask. But then you also have the like the cultural thing, right? Prior to COVID even being a thing, I can recall walking down Spring Garden and seeing, like a young 25-year-old Korean woman coming out of a gift shop wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I remember at that point being like, wow, that's fascinating. But now I'm like, oh, right. Well, there's entire countries of people that wear masks all day, every day.
You've helped me better articulate the two buckets that I was talking about. There's two buckets. It's either you need to wear one to protect yourself from something, or the second one is that you want to wear one because it makes you feel comfortable for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And like those are the two options of why they're wearing it. Either they need to wear it because it's actually doing something helpful for them, or they want to wear it because they believe it's doing something helpful for them or makes them feel comfortable or whatever that is. And those are basically the only reasons.
Yeah. And so I guess like the whole point to wrap this whole thing up is like, if you're still wearing a chin diaper, fuck you, right?
Yeah.
Honk, honk. Let's go, bitch.
My mask. What's your guys' mask when you're in public? Like, do you have something that makes you feel comfortable that it's not a mask, but like something that makes you feel comfortable when you're in public?
Yeah.
What is it?
Just have my zipper down and my balls hanging out. It's like an airflow thing. It feels.
I have that too. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, is there something that you have?
Yeah. What's your example?
I have an example of something. Wearing a hood. Like when I go to the grocery store, if I have headphones in and I have a hood up, I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Than if I'm like.
But when you do that, all the cameras are on you.
Yeah, I feel the opposite.
You feel like you're being watched.
I feel like wearing a hood is asking for people to be paying close attention.
Oh, really? I feel like it gives me a layer of protection.
I think if you're being watched more.
I think if you're wearing a hooded cloak, then I would agree with you there. A hooded cloak, and like you're also doing this the whole time.
Right. You don't think that people are definitely more like, what's that person?
Wait, what the fuck? I wear a hood. If I have a hood, it's up. Like almost all the time.
I love having a hood.
Especially if I have a hat on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also I don't do it because it like makes me feel
doesn't make you feel
safer,
more
like
comfortable.
I'm carrying my fucking.
I didn't use the word.
Do you put your hands in your pockets and hunch your shoulders?
You said like it calms you. It calms you, makes you feel safe, like a sucky.
Yeah, like because like ever since I stopped sucking my thumb, or at least have been trying to do it less in public, having a hood on allows me to like sort of be more discreet when I'm like.
Can I just say this? And I actually mean this.
Mm-hmm.
Can like soothers just be a normal thing? Like, cause dude, sucking on a fucking soother.
No, you don't want to.
Why? It feels so good.
No. You don't want to do that.
There's something real fucking nice. Why don't I want to do? I mean, obviously, obvious things aside, like sucking on a soother as an adult grown man walking through the mall, you're gonna get some looks. Hey, I'm not here to judge, but I get it.
I thought you were more comfortable with who you are, comfortable with who you are to the point where you could actually just rock a soother if you wanted to.
I would fucking pay to watch you walk around the mall with a sucky in. I would pay to watch you from across the divide of the mall.
Guys,
so I could just see how people are reacting to you walking around.
Why do you think the person who invented ring pops invented ring pops?
Dude, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Ring pops are fucking amazing. A good like old school sucker, awesome. A fucking sookie.
Here's the difference.
But here's the difference. Sucky?
Ring pop, you've got it on your finger.
Yeah.
People get it. You've got your hand up to your mouth. No hand sucky?
Yeah, but a no hand sucky with with a regular fucking sucker?
If you've got a no hand sucky? No.
What about a lozenge?
Lozenge,
well, you can't see a lozenge. It's in your mouth.
But it's no hand sucking.
I mean, you're right. But there's just like, we have rules, Jared. We have rules, okay?
Right, but why is that a rule?
It's not, dude. Let's bring it back.
I mean, it's a rule because people go, like, people immediately fetishize.
It's a weird look.
People go, oh, what else are you into?
Dude, definitely. Dude, that's exactly what I would ask.
You know what? If we're gonna bring that back,
people immediately like, oh, what's
if we're gonna bring it back,
bring it back,
bring it up. I don't know.
That sounds like
if we're gonna do it, could we also normalize carrying around blankies with you? You know, like think about how nice. Wouldn't it be comforting to like just take your nose and just rub, you know, the edge of like a satin blanket? You know, those really nice baby blankets with like the little edge that's really satiny and nice. Wouldn't that just be nice to just
guys?
Rub
you know
your
what?
nose on it?
You know what I think the thing is for real.
Why do we bring this back? Why can't I feed from my partner's teat in public? I'm thirsty for milk.
Yeah,
let me suck on a tit.
True. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. I think the actual reason why we don't do this is
the soother,
the blankie is because, no joke, in a perfect world, which we're failing miserably at, we would ideally make it so that everyone is just comfortable with just being.
I'll tell you right now.
So if I had it back,
and I'm saying that by comfortable without a protective mechanism.
Oh, well, no, but it's not even about that.
And we're failing. We're failing at that because a lot of people don't feel that
wearing
way.
a hood for me isn't a protective mechanism. Like I'm not like.
I think you said specifically.
You did. You said it keeps me safe from the baddies outside.
I didn't use the word safe or protected.
You did.
I said it makes me feel comfortable, and it's just a comforting thing to have. And comfort is different than feeling protected, or safe. Comfort is just feels comfortable, and so.
I mean,
imagine this. Imagine a hooded sweater that's made out of the same material as a children's blanket,
I feel like
blankie.
That's what sweaters are made
Cotton.
of.
It's but not in sweater material, in like a soft blankie material. And imagine the hood was that soft blanket material, but around the fringe of the hood,
our sweater's not
was satin. Was that satiny?
Brian, you just need to go to you just need to go to an EDM festival.
And then it had
that's all you need.
And then it had drawstrings that each at the end had two soothers hanging off of them. Wouldn't that be the most comfortable fucking sweater?
You're speaking Jared's language now.
You are, and also like again, this is totally acceptable at an electronic music festival.
Did this come off the top of your head, or did you plan to talk about suckies?
No, I have no. How do we even get on this? I don't even know what the fuck we were talking about. Dyson zones. Now I'm talking about sucking tits in public. I have no idea what's happening. Fucking god damn it! Oh, you were talking about masks, and then we were talking about things that make us. And I said, well, speaking of things that make us feel better, I want to suck on a soother. Let's move on to this week's edition of A Bri. So I set this up if we ever talk about AI, I'm just going to have ChatGPT do all the writing. Okay. So this actually is quite interesting. It's actually about ChatGPT. A study finds that ChatGPT outperforms physicians in high quality, empathetic answers to patient questions. So ChatGPT
Say that again.
Does a better job than physicians in providing high quality, empathetic answers to questions that patients have.
That is the least surprising thing.
Well, AI. So this is what ChatGPT said. And it's interesting. I wonder what ChatGPT is going to say about this thing that is talking about it. All right.
Oh, wow.
I haven't read this yet. While AI won't replace your doctor, the JAMA Internal Medicine paper suggests that physicians working together with technologies like me, ChatGPT, may revolutionize medicine. It didn't say me, but
I was going to say it didn't say
with
that.
myself. ChatGPT. As the world eagerly awaits the inevitable robot uprising. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Big boop. As the world eagerly awaits the inevitable robot uprising, scientists have been exploring the potential uses of artificial intelligence assistance in the field of medicine. A new study published in the prestigious JAMA Internal Medicine journal has provided a tantalizing glimpse into this brave new world, revealing that ChatGPT, an AI-powered chatbot, was actually better at answering health-related questions than real-life physicians. The study was led by John W. Ayers, PhD, from the Qualcomm Institute at the University of California, San Diego, California whale's vagina.
Wooden ship.
Who believes that AI-augmented care is the future of medicine. But before we get too excited about our robot overlords, it's worth noting that the study was conducted using a subreddit called r Ask Docs, where patients publicly post their medical queries and verified healthcare professionals provide answers. The team behind the study compared written responses from physicians and those from ChatGPT. And to their surprise, a panel of licensed healthcare professionals preferred ChatGPT's responses 79% of the time.
Whoa. It's an overwhelming amount.
Not only were ChatGPT responses deemed higher quality and more empathetic than those of the human doctors, but they also addressed more aspects of the patient's questions. Quote, ChatGPT might be able to pass a medical licensing exam, quipped study co-author Davey Smith, MD, MAS. But directly answering patients' questions accurately and empathetically is a different ballgame. The results of the study have raised some interesting questions about the future of healthcare. Could AI assistants like ChatGPT be integrated into health systems to ease the burden on physicians? Could they provide better quality healthcare for patients? Could they eventually replace human doctors altogether? Big boop. While some may worry about the rise of the machines, the study's authors argue that the ultimate solution isn't throwing out the human doctors altogether. Instead, they suggest that doctors should harness the power of ChatGPT to improve the quality of care they provide to patients. As Christopher Longhurst, MD, MS, Chief Medical Officer and Chief Digital Officer at UC San Diego Health, puts it, these results suggest that tools like ChatGPT can efficiently draft high-quality, personalized medical advice for review by clinicians, and we are beginning that process at UCSD Health. So while the idea of a robot doctor may seem like science fiction, the future of healthcare could very well be powered by AI. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be able to book an appointment with ChatGPT, the world's most empathetic chatbot. Just don't forget to say thank you after your consultation, or it might just remember that for next time.
So I don't know, Jerry, if you saw this article I put in our Feel Good Friday folder, but it was about virtual care in Nova Scotia.
I did see this, yeah.
So a person who worked in healthcare in Alberta retired with their partner to Nova Scotia and during the pandemic, and actually tried to get access to a family doctor, but ended up on the patient registry list,
like everybody else,
and then was recommended by someone else to use Virtual Care Nova Scotia, which is this platform where you can actually sign up to have a consultation with a doctor virtually, and they basically get back to you same day, like right away. And it's great. You get, like, if you need prescription refilled, or you know, to get access to medication they're used to taking or whatever, and you need to speak to a doctor who can write a prescription for that.
If you drank an entire bottle of Miracle Grow and you're just wondering like if it's going to kill you, if it's going to grow 7 inches.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. We called poison control, and they laughed at me.
So like virtual care is really great for that. But when I was thinking, because I'm waiting for a family doctor, my doctor retired like years ago now, and I haven't had access to a family doctor. And when I was thinking about virtual care, I was thinking about how it wasn't what I wanted. Like what I really want in a doctor is like somebody who I know is going to be the same person that I see, every time something goes wrong with that, they like understands and knows my history so that, if I come in and have specific concerns about something, that I can trust that they remember and know me as a person in a way that they can provide advice that is not just based on this one scenario, but based on a past history.
And they'll offer you a blankie and a sucky.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, the virtual care could probably. I mean, what you wouldn't need all of that background for them to deal with the redness.
Oh yeah, I do need to get that redness checked out.
I mean, our YouTube viewers can't see it from this angle
and the swelling
or this angle, but I can see it from this angle.
Yeah,
and
it is swollen
because you don't need you don't need the personal care for the redness and the swelling. You just need a quick fix.
I mean, like I'm fine with the virtual care for like that situation, but like really, what I really want is a family doctor. I want a family doctor who is a person who I can plan to have around for the next 30 years. And so when I think of ChatGPT,
that's a bit of a long time horizon, but I understand.
I mean, that's my experience. I hear you. My experience was that my family doctor was in the delivery room when I was born, and
he
should be in the death room when you die.
but it was like
when you say that, my first question is why?
What do you mean why?
Why was your family doctor in the room when you were born?
I was banging his mom, dude. It's his fucking dad, dude. We figured it out, bro. We know who your dad is. Finally.
Makes so much sense.
Because when you say that he was in the room, like my
he did the delivery.
My knee-jerk reaction is going, sure. But then when I think about it, I go,
wait, what the fuck?
But he was the person who received me when I came out of the inside of my mom.
Did he switch from obstetrics to family medicine?
No, I don't know. He was literally there. I don't know if that was a guys. Google it and see it.
Brian, why was he there?
This is a Sick Boy exclusive.
I promise you. Guys, let's call my mom right now and ask if my doctor was in the room when I was delivered.
Why? Well, I'm so interested because, like, I feel like if we had asked our family doctor to be in the delivery room for Zaya's birth, our doctor would have been like, what? Why?
Urgently.
Why would I be there?
This is urgently important for me to get the answer to. You
really?
Guys. Yeah.
You know what she's not picking up?
She's with my dad. My real dad.
At the family medicine clinic.
Wait, isn't he dead? Is this doctor dead?
No, he retired.
He retired.
Oh, he retired.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is why hanging around. So
you should leave a message and go, Mom, were you fucking my doctor?
I'm texting her right now.
So anyway, we'll have an answer for you next week.
But my point is, so when it comes to ChatGPT, like, the doctor's office that I used to go to, the family doctor's office, my doctor would like come out of this back room and like
with your mom comes out of a back room like says, oh, Brian, sorry, just let me go wash my hands
because I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor
and I wash my hands.
Doctor stuff on my hands, not anything else. Not sex juice. Sex juice. What?
So he would come in. Okay, so like the doctor would come out of the back room when come into like the waiting room to or into the doctor's room or office or whatever.
Yeah.
But then he would disappear. And one sec, here's my mom. Hey, Mom.
Oh my God.
Hey, Mom, you're on the podcast for a second.
Oh.
I have a question for you.
I'm at work.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Was Dr. Traeger in the delivery room when I was born?
I believe he was.
Okay. Was he there because he was working, or was he there because he's actually my biological father?
We want to know why. Oh, that's an awkward laugh.
Really, wait. Well, as far as I know, he was working.
Okay, but he was. I just had a really good relationship with my family doctor, right? Like he was in the room when I was born, and he was my doctor for a long time, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was just checking.
And he was my doctor for like over 40 years.
Oh,
because he just retired.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe. Anyway, all right.
All right. Love you. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Holy shit. I just looked at myself on the screen. I realized I'm 10 shades of red. Holy fuck.
Oh, man. Well, yeah. So yeah. Cool. So cool. That's great.
Okay. So my point, I had a point to this. I just had a point to this. So what I would like to see instead of the doctor coming out of the back room with my mom is the doctor spending more time in the office, having that face-to-face interaction with the patients, and then not having to go back and do all the paperwork thing that they do.
To which ChatGPT could
do that.
Do that
right?
very
And then
well.
you could have a more personal relationship with the human part of going to see a doctor.
Yeah.
And
well, at this rate, I mean, at this rate, I know that ChatGPT was joking when it was saying this stuff to us, but at this point, there won't be doctors for long, and there won't be podcasters for long. There won't be humans for long. We are doomed. So let's move on to something we can do while we're still alive, before the robots take over. Guys, this is actually fucking wild. So Oregon, you can do psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy.
In Oregon?
In Oregon.
Not Oregon.
Organs.
Oregon.
There we go.
It is going to, what do you think it's going to cost to have a psilocybin session at
Assisted
Oregon's
therapy?
first licensed center?
I mean, it should be, it's got to be, I'd say it's like at least 5 times the amount than it would be to see a therapist for an hour, because you're with them for probably 5+ hours.
$12,000
plus the psilocybin, which should be cheap.
Well, let's go through this. So I actually have the cost plan for a session at Oregon's first licensed center. But before I go into the breakdown of the cost plan, I just want to read to you a little piece here from Double Blind that put up an article about this. So Oregon has officially licensed the first ever regulated psilocybin service center in the United States, and legal journeys are set to take place this summer. A guided trip with 4 grams of mushrooms will cost $3,500 per session. 2.5 gram session will cost $2,800. A reported 80 people signed up on the waiting list to access psilocybin for the first greenlit facility, Epic Healing Eugene. Of course, this is in Eugene, where they will undergo a supervised magic mushroom journey. Quote, "This is the first step, and we will soon work to create more access for people to this life-changing therapy through scholarships and creating ways for people to sponsor services for other people," owner Kathy Jonas said in a press release. The clinical social worker underwent a 300-hour psychedelic-assisted therapy training program, and her company will also offer tailored preparation and integration sessions. Quote, "The majority of people that are coming have PTSD and trauma," she told KLCC. "Probably a good third are very depressed." The former campaign manager of the ballot initiative that saw the psychedelic mushroom measure pass, Sam Chapman, now executive director of the Healing Advocacy Fund, said there could be a dozen service centers open by the end of the year after facilitators and growers were licensed earlier this year.
Why do you think it's, what's your best guess at why it's more expensive for a bigger dose?
So
I would think that the biggest cost is the time.
I know why.
Of the therapist, because like,
how long does a trip last for?
No, dude, it's not that. So officials claim that Measure 109 did not give the agency authority to create regulations that directly address the accessibility issue. Mason Marks, former chair in the licensing subcommittee, told Double Blind, That's somewhat debatable, but at least some of the fault lies with the drafters of the ballot initiative who decided not to make affordability a priority. By comparison, those who drafted Colorado's Proposition 122 made the affordability of services a focus of Colorado's advisory board. So accessibility wasn't like a part of the focus for Oregon. Jonas, the woman who is leading this clinic, said that along with the $12,000 training and certification fees for her alone, she must pay a $10,000 annual fee and $60,000 on insurance and security. Service centers cannot write off costs like wages and rent on their federal taxes because psilocybin is federally illegal. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why it's so expensive for her.
So she's got a $60,000 minimum annual bill to provide services
annually for that.
Yeah,
it's a one-time annual fee.
So I have the whole breakdown here, and to be honest with you, like when I read this personally, and I'm not a doctor, but personally, I think this is fucking insane, and I see the benefit to having psychedelic assisted therapy. But if it was me and I had PTSD and I wanted to utilize psychedelics to like find healing, I'd probably go the underground route where it's far fucking cheaper and there's people already doing it. Here is the breakdown of the cost. This is fucking wild.
Well, I mean, when you just saying those initial like annual fees and training fees and stuff.
Well, that was the cost of the provider.
Right. But just those, the cost of the provider, that now makes the actual cost for the therapy not seem like it's actually that much.
Right.
Well, but that's why they have to charge so
listen to this. They have different levels here. You got level 1 microdose, level 2 microdose, low dose, medium dose, high dose. Now here's the other thing. I will say this: the high dose, the high dose that is a part of this clinic, this program, is according to the clinicians that were doing this underground and like the psychonauts that are like and therapists that are actually doing it's laughable, the dosage to them. So a level 1 microdose, which would be 0.1 gram to 0.4 grams, 1 to 2 hour duration of a session.
What? But you wouldn't know.
Hold on. Let me finish this. A group session costs up to 5 people, $300.
That sounds counterproductive.
Per person, okay? Individual session cost, $500. So let's just do individual costs. $500 for a microdose amount of medicine within a 1 to 2 hour session, okay?
That's just a therapy session.
Let's do a level 2 microdose. 0.4 grams to 0.8 grams, $800.
Holy fuck.
2 to 3 hours. So you add another hour. Okay, low dose. Now we're talking low dose, 4 hour session, $1,800, and that's for a gram to a gram and a half. A medium dose, 5 hour session, 1.5 to 2.5 grams, $2,800. And a high dose, which they state is 2.5 to 4 grams over 6 hours, $3,500. Now, just for context, a high dose, 4 grams is not a high dose. 4 grams is a fair
4
amount.
grams is
Nope, it is not.
Relative to what you're trying to achieve.
Relative to what you're trying to achieve, it's not.
But it's not nothing.
You're going to really know.
You're right. It's not, but it is not.
If I take 4 grams, I'm having an experience.
You're having you're having an interesting time, but when we talk about the people that have been doing this and been doing this for years,
like Thomas
Hartle is doing like 7.5 to 8 grams. That is a heroic dose, and that is what a lot of the people that are doing this work are saying is like required for this type of work, and this is half of that.
My qualm wouldn't be so much on the high dose part.
$3,500.
I mean the cost and everything, the relative to the amount and the cost. That's crazy. My issue is with trying to justify the like quarter gram to a gram ones. You're like, I mean, I've taken a lot of mushrooms in my day, and I've taken some higher doses and I've taken some lower doses, and I have, especially over the last couple of years, I haven't really done a high dose of mushrooms in a while, and I have been much more prone to taking like 0.5 gram to gram doses. And that is like, whatever you think about mushrooms, especially if you have no experience with them, 0.5 gram to a gram is like, no one is going to ever know that I was taking mushrooms. Mm-hmm. I can be at a party. I could be hanging out with people.
For you.
For me, yes. I understand that if you were if it was your first time taking mushrooms, that would be a different experience.
Or if you're someone specific.
Right. But I
think we all know a person. I think we all know one person.
We all know one person.
Yeah. Where?
And I think we're thinking about the same person.
We definitely are. 100%.
So I'm going, and yes, that amount of mushrooms is like, it's nice and jovial. I feel good.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel very in tune. Feel very dialed in, but I don't know what kind of like psychological revelations are going to be brought on by that. And I don't know, even in the most sensitive of people, if it is going to bring anything on that is going to be of the level of importance that we need it to be for the types of things that we're trying to treat.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that in the sense
if you're doing like, if you say you're doing a therapy sessions over the span of like 5 months and you're going once a week and you're doing that with, 1.5 grams or something, or 2 grams per session, like okay,
something to open you up just a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But like a one-time session, I don't know about that. Like that seems a little silly to me. And there are like, the people that are behind the psilocybin campaigns for therapy, their thoughts when it comes to that higher dose is like, this is a fucking joke. This is a joke. And the fact that it costs that much money is even more laughable. The Psilocybin Oregon campaign group tweeted, at $3,500 a session, it is for rich people only. Please do not copy the paywall prohibitive model we have in Oregon. Instead, bring full decriminalization to your community and help everyone heal.
I was going to say, I think that I think that a placebo amount, like a microdose during a therapy session, could be enough to like open a person up and make them have some profound realizations about themselves. But I don't think any of those amounts lead to like the full rewiring of your brain type of experiences that like Thomas Hartle had.
Yeah.
Until you get into those like heroic doses. I mean, I've had like anecdotally taking like 2.5 to 3 grams of mushrooms and having like a really, profound experience, just like spending time with friends. Like I've had profound experiences that I've remembered for the rest of my life, that I'll remember for the rest of my life, in terms of like, I don't know, I'll be specific about it. Like there was a moment when, Taylor, we were doing mushrooms together and we were standing outside of your yoga studio at night. And I remember looking out into the sort of like darkness of nighttime and going, oh fuck, the only thing that matters to me in my life is my friends. Like this is it. Like being here with this group of people is like the most important thing to me. And like I think back to that often and think, when I'm feeling down or when I'm feeling bad about something, I think, holy fuck, I just have to remember that, like, I can call my friends. I have these amazing people in my life, and I know that no matter how bad things get, I'll always have them. And that came from like a realization while being high on mushrooms, which wasn't like, it wasn't a 7 gram dose, but like if you're dealing with like severe, PTSD or chronic depression, I feel like you need to take a little bit more than that 3 to 4 gram dose to like really have a profound experience, to rewire, those experiences.
I think the thing that gets you, I think the line, and I'm not super familiar with this, but let me know what you think, Jerry. I think the line that you sort of need to cross in terms of these like high dose experiences is like really the line of like being here.
Yeah, like the idea of self.
Like the idea, like
an ego,
and that's why in psychedelic assisted therapy, you're typically going to be wearing an eye mask. You're going to have headphones on or some type of like, sensory depriving equipment to just not so that you are aided, and also the extremely high dose of mushrooms helps you to like really dissolve this like material plane that we're on every day, and to like exit for a while, and go into another dimension.
The dissolution of the ego is like it's a massive part of that process, right? Like, Thomas Hartle spoke to that. It was like he lost touch with who he was, what he meant. Like what is self? Who am I? What am I? In that moment of like, 7-8 grams deep, there is no I.
Yeah.
And then when you come out of that experience of recognizing that you are fleeting and that you are actually just a fucking bundle of atoms that are interacting with a bunch of other atoms, and none of this is permanent, yet everything is forever. Like it's those types of things where when you say it now sober, you're like, what the fuck does that even mean? But when it all sort of like comes together in a place where mentally you are so detached from like what it means to be a you, it really has like a profound effect on the way that you view your impermanence. And that's for him in that particular case where he's dealing with end of life anxieties, that's really highly important. I'm sure that a 3 gram, 4 gram, 6 hour session for someone who's dealing with PTSD that just, that like served in Afghanistan or something, I'm sure that's going to be beneficial.
But
the fucking cost of that to me is
nuts.
So gross. And again, I would just go, fuck that. I can find ways to do this for free.
Besides the shittiness of that program and the crazy cost to it, it was nice to hear the other day. We were last week we were speaking at the New Brunswick Hospice and Palliative Care Association's conference, and in the Q&A session after, we got a question from somebody in the audience that asked us about how we think about psychedelic assisted therapy, and just really interesting to be at a healthcare focused conference, and for that to be an audience question. I think just that in and of itself kind of speaks to the progression of this conversation and the understanding in like the broader healthcare world.
Because 10 years ago, that question would have been a real like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's becoming way more people there. Normalized and common now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I had another thing here, but we're way over time. We can talk about banging in space next week. So
okay.
I feel like we've talked.
This is a new banging in space thing. We did a whole episode on banging in space, but this is a new take on scientists' concerns about fucking in space.
Nobody's
not for the astronaut, but for the space
station. Oh, I thought they were worried about the space station getting like.
Yeah, we don't want to come
gunked up.
Yeah, gunking up the
laboratory,
the machines. All right, so folks, hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We will be back next week. And in the meantime, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or you can do the same thing on the Spotify mobile app. And come join the conversation over on Discord. We'd love to see that community grow. It's constantly growing. Lots of new people popping in there. Really fun conversations, and a good place to hang if you're ever feeling lonely.
And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com and click on the button that is obviously there for you to fill out the form to be a guest. And if you want to recommend somebody to be on the show, preferably a healthcare professional, somebody you think that could add some context to some of the interesting Wednesday conversations that we have, go on there and nominate somebody.
And if you are a family doctor, then reach out to me personally. If you live in Nova Scotia in particular, and you can be my new doctor.
Brian SookieSookieBlanky@gmail.com.
It's actually SookieSookieBaby_1.
Hoods aren't threatening @gmail.com.
And thanks as always to the folks who make this show happen. A huge happy belated birthday to Jeff Lonis. We love you. And to Rich O'Coin for the theme music. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
that is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy. And this is Sick Boy.